So coming back to healthcare, so you're saying that if I can summarize it, like healthcare, when it comes to accreditation, there are key players where there is one body which certifies or gives the accreditation to another body which actually does the certification.
Where we accredit other bodies who in turn go to the industry, who service the industry. Whereas in healthcare, the healthcare accreditation body directly services the industry.
Service industry.
Yeah.
Right. So in case of products, like, if our people, if the manufacturers have to get themselves accredited or certified, who they should look up to?
Manufacturers, if they have to get certified, accreditation is not the word used in manufacturing at all. They should look at a certification body which is accredited under an international system. There is an international system of accreditation.
Yes.
There's equivalence of accreditation. An ISO 9001 certificate issued in India by an accredited certification body. Certification body which is accredited by NABH is accepted globally. Why? Because NABH itself has been evaluated by its regional body, and that regional body has been evaluated by the international body.
Okay.
So in this system, everybody is getting evaluated. In fact, we joke about this, that in God we trust, rest all have to show evidence. So we are an example of a community where everybody has to show evidence. It's not enough to be a CEO and NABH. I have to get evaluated and get NABH through the line, get evaluated and get through that test.
So it's a cascading effect, if I can say that. It's a top to bottom approach.
So actually, people should understand that it's not only the product standard which is important. It is also important how the demonstration of compliance is taking place. You take a product, go to a lab which is not accredited. You are not sure whether that lab knows how to test that product. But when you go to a lab which is accredited, you are sure that this lab knows how to test this product.
Yes.
So accreditation represents the second part. To give you a more simple example, because how compliance method can influence your standing in the word itself. I'll give you a very simple example which everybody understands, especially ladies would understand.
Okay.
Gold hallmarking.
Okay.
Now, isn't gold purity standardized all over the world? 18 karat means 18 karat in Dubai, in US, in India.
Yes.
20 karat, 22 karat means same everywhere else.
Yes.
We have a hallmarking system in India, we all know.
Yes.
Yet that hallmarking system is not acceptable abroad. Now you would wonder why. When gold is 18 karat and we are also certifying to 18 karat, why is it not acceptable? Because the assaying centers which are being used, they are not accredited to an international standard. BIS is using its own standard to recognize, approve those assaying centers. But there's an international standard for assaying centers or testing labs which is called ISO 17025. So unless those assaying centers are accredited to ISO 17025, their results are not acceptable. Even though gold is 18 karat or 22 karat, they are using the test method, but they haven't demonstrated to a third party that they are complying with the international standard. So our gold jewelry is not acceptable elsewhere despite being of the same product standard. So that indicates that product standard and demonstration of compliance, which we call conformity assessment. Product standard and conformity standards both together have to be there in case you want your product acceptable abroad.
Acceptable internationally, globally.
Yes.
Okay. So just for the ladies, what are those certifications that we should see when buy gold?
No, hallmarking is good enough, frankly. It is being, your quality is assured. There is no doubt about that. The question is when it comes to global acceptance. See, food is certified here. There is a licensing system in place. For drugs, there is a licensing system. All of them are safe. Licensing in these sectors implies all these things are safe. However, when you go to the global market, the compliances needed sometimes are stricter, or there is focus on whether the demonstration is also internationally compliant or not. That's where the problem comes.
Okay. So now coming back to healthcare. So now, so there are many key players. So getting one approval or one certification done. So do you think it is a little complex in terms of getting the certificates done or the processes that is involved?
See, one thing which we need to understand is, because that sometimes gets muddy in India, there will be regulation in healthcare, whether it's service or product. Sooner or later, there will be. Medical devices till 2020 were not regulated. So now we see that they have come under regulation. So first thing is we should expect that any product or service which has health implications will be regulated, which means standards will be enforced by law. And there will be a single regulator. There can't be multiple regulators. You cannot have one CDSU regulating medical devices, another body regulating medical devices. Cannot happen. So there will be a single regulator, single regulation in place. However, when it comes to voluntary, there can be multiple players because it's voluntary. It's optional for the businesses. And there is no legal bar on anybody setting up a voluntary system. A voluntary standard can be made by anybody.
Okay.
It's nowhere written who can make voluntary standard, others cannot make. We know that BIS is the national standards body. It's written in the Act of Parliament. But it's nowhere written that it is the only body which will make standards nobody else can make. So it is possible to create voluntary standards, multiple voluntary standards. Even though for a long time there might be monopoly. For example, it's happening in healthcare. I'm talking specifically with reference to healthcare. We had, for example, NABH as an accreditation body for many years. But today, in last 2 years, 3 more accreditation bodies have come up which have international equivalences. So, because it's a voluntary space. Similarly, we had for a long time NABH as the healthcare accreditation body. But subsequently, another body came up which went to ISQA, got itself endorsed. So now there's an equivalent body available. So, voluntary space, we have to understand there will be multiple players. And you have an option. As a business, you decide to go to whichever body benefits you in business term. Regulation, there will be a single regulator. You have to go there. Now, how friendly the regulators' processes are, that's one part. And how friendly the certification processes are. Certification, normally they will follow international standards. Testing or certification. There are international standards which they have to follow if certification bodies are accredited. Regulations, processes are regulators. I don't think there is so much standardization on regulatory processes. So how much time you are taking, what kind of evidences you want, there might be kind of variation there.
Okay. So I have seen this as a practice or as a common thing in people when they buy any medical product, any medical device, they look for this FDA certification. So,
see, this is a legacy which we are carrying because medical devices were unregulated. For a large part, they were unregulated. In fact, when COVID struck in 2020, early 2020, because there was no other option for me. There was no other way I could make sure that the device was safe. I couldn't play with the lives of my patients. But today, I would think when regulation has come, Indian regulation is there, CDSU is regulating, medical devices rules are there, they cover all the medical devices. There's no need to really look at US FDA or CE mark because we have a regulator who's regulating, licensing, and medical devices are safe. Sometimes there could be variation of standards which are being referenced in the regulation. For example, medical devices rule says that first you comply with BIS standards. If BIS standards are not there, you comply with international standards. If even those are not there, you comply with your manufacturer's validated standard. Personally, I wish the order was reversed. Comply with international standards first. Failing which, if there's none, you comply with BIS standards. That would have given us more sort of, access in the world market that our standards, we are following international standards wherever they were available. So any product that goes into the market. But that's okay, that's a bit of a problem. I hope in the next edition of medical devices rules, they modify this and make it that.
So contemporary or complementary to the FDA certifications that we have, what do you think that India has to offer? Where do you see Indian standards? Which one that the buyer should see if it is certified by India?
Well, as I said, as far as Indian buyer is concerned, today he should be looking at the licensed manufacturers. They must be licensed under CDSU as medical device manufacturers. That's one thing they should look. Second is looking at the standards which are being followed. Well, I was involved in creating a certification program in Quality Council of India, which is called ICMED, where we tried that there could be certification to any global standard. So the ICMED 13485 Plus is a certification intended to certify a manufacturer to any global standard, so that you can get the same kind of quality which you were thinking you are getting from US FDA approval or CE mark through affordable Indian certification. So there is an option available. If you are really, choosy as a buyer, that I want a 100% guarantee that the medical device I am buying is global standard, then ICMED 13485 Plus is an option.
ICMED
13485 Plus it's called.
So if you know this, ICMED 13845 Plus.
13485.
13485 Plus. So if you see, so you should know ISO 13485 Plus is something that you should look for if you're thinking of buying any Indian product and you're very choosy, and if it is not only FDA and CE, this is what you should look for.
In fact, we want, because this is a common complaint that in the tenders CE mark or US FDA is being asked for, and we wanted to create something which is equivalent so that stipulation can go away. Government has been trying that stipulation should go away. People asking for a CE mark or US FDA approval, because for example, India is such a huge country. If I am a medical device manufacturer and I am making a world-class product and I am selling it in India only, why should I go for US FDA approval or CE mark and spend all that money just to satisfy a tender requirement in India? I mean, it defies the logic, frankly. So, but then the question comes, can we offer something which is world-class here itself? I think we tried.
Yes, it's a good information that now I also have. So, coming back to that, when you were defining about standards, I get to hear it a lot from my friends who are settled outside and abroad. They say that, the same product, be it any electronics or be it shampoo for that matter, right? When they buy it, in other countries, they say the quality, there's a difference in the quality. So, and some say, the people who are working in the field and giving the product, they say that, it is not the quality, it is the standard. Quality must be same. The standards are different.
No, I wouldn't agree with that. The fact is that quality can vary. Even if it's a regulated product, you are in a way setting the minimum standard, that everybody should meet this minimum standard. Excellence has no limit.
No limit.
As a manufacturer, I can go on innovating, produce better and better product and better quality. So even if you are regulated, the quality among regulated sectors, regulated manufacturers can vary, because somebody may be making a better product. So quality would remain. Quality has no limit. With technology, with innovation, quality can become better and better and better and better. And the manufacturers who are in the forefront of that kind of activity will always have better product. So I wouldn't say that every regulated product has the same quality. They meet the same standard, but they don't have the same quality.
Same quality.
They can vary.
Yes, that is what. So, what is your take on having single standard in healthcare in India?
Well, single standard in healthcare in India, a single standard can only be by way of regulation. Because as I said, as far as voluntary work is concerned, people can go on making multiple standards and have multiple levels of quality. So I'm not sure whether single standard beyond a regulation is such a bright idea. Secondly, are we able to adopt international standards in our regulation or not? That's the question, key question.
Yeah.
I mean, we are known as pharmacy of the world for so many years, and yet it's only recently when the GMP has been revised after some of these issues which arose in the foreign market in terms of pharma. That time limit also has been extended a bit. So we were unable to adopt WHO GMP in our regulation. Even today for Ayush, for example, we have not adopted WHO GMP in our Ayush medicine system.
Okay.
So it is a challenge always for developing countries to adopt international standards in their regulations, because regulation means compulsory. Then anybody who's not compliant, you shut him down. So that remains a challenge. So I'm not sure whether single standard is such a workable concept, especially in India, because I would like single standard to be enforced by law, and that should be the best standard around the world. It doesn't happen so easily.
So, in the game of the standards and quality and certification, how do you see government play a role here, and especially when it is a developing nation like India?
Well, government can play a role by, first thing, regulations are under government's control. Regulation can only be made by government. Government has to decide that it is going to push the industry to go to international levels as fast as possible. Each sector would have different time frame, surely, and that regulations will, will have to be upgraded to international standards. There is no other way. I mean, for a country like India, if we are dreaming of Viksit Bharat 2047, we can't have differential standards.
Yes.
We can't have one set of standards for domestic market, another set of standards for global market. I mean, legitimately, consumer can complain, why am I not entitled to a world-class product or a service? It's another matter that consumer voice is not very strong in India. And you don't hear so much about consumers complaining on this issue. But the fact is, why should, as a consumer, I be not entitled to the best product? So to my mind, the only thing government needs to do is to, sector by sector, look at the regulations. Talk to the industry. Yes, there are challenges. But talk to the industry and decide on a reasonable time frame that within this time you are going to progress to this level. I mean, one approach which Bureau of Energy Efficiency took, I would commend that approach. They started by putting a product under star labeling program on a voluntary basis. 5 years down the line, they made it compulsory. So you give industry time that here it is, this is coming, please get ready, do it on a voluntary basis for some time, but ultimately it will become compulsory. I think it's high time India decided that all our businesses have to operate at international standard, which should be default thinking, which is not happening, unfortunately, in many sectors.
Yeah, because if you're talking about Make in India, if you're talking about Viksit Bharat, this is something that, we have to have the parallel thing going on, which is choose India.
Yeah,
choose Indian products, choose Make in India products. But how?
They have to be then global standard. They will exceed. I can only say two things. I mean, I think, much older. There was a time when the export reject used to sell, especially clothes.
Yes.
Used to sell at premium in India.
Yes.
Than the domestic product.
Yes.
Which is so awful in a way, if you look at it.
Yes.
A small defect in the product, which we'll not even be able to see with the naked eye, would cause a rejection as far as export was concerned, but would sell in India at premium price.
Yeah.
So
we still have all the factory outlets that we see are nothing but
so why should that be so?
Yes.
That's just not done. I mean, if we are talking of Viksit Bharat 2047, this should not be acceptable.
So how, as buyers, do you see our role towards elevating the standard scheme?
Buyers should ask for the best quality. Buyers have to start asking for the best quality and become intolerant of poor quality. which is what buyers' demand will generally determine. And government can set an example by there's so much government procurement taking place. Government should insist on the best quality for government procurement, even beyond regulations. I would also say one more thing. International standards, I have been part of this standards world for the last 40 plus years. I have been part of some ISO committees also. My view is that international standards today do not represent the best practice. They represent the most commonly accepted practice. We 50 people sitting in that room have to agree to a certain standard. It may not necessarily be the best practice. Best practice may not get the majority in favor. And therefore you lower that and come to a certain conclusion. So we should be looking at not merely meeting international standards, but exceeding international standards. As a country, there's no other way. We should be exceeding international standards and show, if we want to show to the world that we are a quality nation, we have to exceed international standards.
Yes, and being
industry, I have one example of industry, because sometimes people feel that industry will not comply. I think industry, if it's a matter of survival, will comply. I remember an instance when the government of India issued a notification way back, it was in 1996. They put export of seafood under a regulation that you could not export seafood without being approved. And the industry was up in arms and refused to comply with that regulation. For 1.5 years, the industry did not comply with that regulation. Exports continued despite that regulation being in place. And then in 1997, EC slapped a ban on Indian seafood exports. And they lifted the ban only after convincing themselves that there is a body called Export Inspection Council which will certify the seafood plants as per EU regulations, then only they will permit. And within next 6 months, 1 year, all plants were certified to EU standards. How did this happen? Same industry which was opposing a regulation because the matter of survival.
Yes.
So I think Indian industry, to my mind, will go on saying, no, we are not ready because everybody resists change. But faced with survival, they would do. So if government was to act tough, that nothing doing, if you don't comply, you shut down. I think industries, our entrepreneurs are, enterprising enough to do what it takes to produce good quality, because they are being allowed to operate without producing best quality. They operate.
Yes.
But they are. I have no doubt about. We have very intelligent population. I have no doubt that we can do that. I think government has to be tough.
Yes.
Strict on regulations.
So I think we can have a joint appeal to the government that we should have stricter policies.
Please upgrade all your regulations to global standards. Yes. Indian consumer is entitled to world-class products. The days of differential standards should be gone.
Yes.
Should be history.
So yes, so this is our responsibility as people who are putting forward the facts and news to you, that we also come forward and appeal. So it's an appeal from Medgate and AMTZ and all the people, all the Indian manufacturers to the government, that we should look into it now. This high time that if we are talking about India as the largest market, and especially in healthcare, then we should have that capacity where we are producing as well as selling the same product in the same market. So thank you so much, sir, for having your good time here at
Thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah. So yes, listeners, if you have any queries, if you need any consultation, or if you want to understand anything in terms of standards and accreditation and certification for your healthcare products, you can always reach out to Medgate and AMTZ. So thank you so much for being such patient listeners and viewers, and see you in next episode. Thank you for watching.